Yeah, but obviously you didn't actually get a birdie though, did you?
Well,
Right, yeah, pod's recording, boys. So away we go.
Gotta get the script up. Welcome to the No Ifs, Buts and Bogies podcast. We are no nonsense, straight talking podcast, talking about all the hot topics in the world of golf. This podcast is brought to you in association with Barretto Golf, a stylish, affordable golf clothing brand. Visit BarrettoGolf.com for all the latest offers. That's BARRETO golf.com. This podcast is also brought to you on behalf of the Golfer Gang Network. Please go and check out some of the other golfing podcasts. Without further ado, I will pass you on to your host, Mr. Harry Clark.
Hello and welcome to everyone listening to today's podcast. We are joined with what seems to be a kid in a sweet shop for how excited he is, because Mr. DB has just been played at Wentworth Golf Course.
I believe we should title this one like Breaking News, Emergency Pod, DB's played Wentworth.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Man lost 10 balls at one course, or he's been scrounging around the rough for plenty of time. No, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting listen because he's been itching to sort of tell us all via WhatsApp, but we do a podcast now, so we've saved it for the pod. So, DB, away you go. You can unleash your story.
Well, I think deep down, because neither of you really know, to be honest with you, the number one question on yours and on everyone else's mind is how the fuck have I ended up at Wentworth, which in itself is a very good question. So, good friend of mine who I've known for about 15 years now. We actually went to college together. He also now lives up in London. He's originally from Devon, but he came to Truro College. I will name drop him because he's asked me to give him a shout out. No, I'm joking. I really appreciate it. So Dan Hardy, he's called. He gave me a call on Tuesday. He said, "What are you doing on Thursday?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, mate, the Masters is on. Been looking forward to it all week. Been watching all the coverage. Want to watch it in the afternoon." He says, "Can you get to Wentworth at 8:10 in the morning?" I was just like, "Wentworth? Yeah, like, I probably could do. Like, what's going on?" Thinking, there's no golf at Wentworth. There's no golf at Wentworth. It's a Masters. There's no golf at Wentworth at the moment. And he basically said, "I've got us a tea time at Wentworth at 8:10. Breakfast will be about 7:10. Would you like to come?" And I said, "Yes, I would." So basically, that's how it came about. He won it at a charity auction down in Devon a little while ago. And I actually think I lucked out a bit because I think someone dropped out or pulled out or couldn't make it or something or other. That's why this didn't come around till Tuesday. So thank you so much to whoever that was, because it was a rather delightful experience.
So Tuesday, you're getting a message. You find out that you're going to Wentworth. You get all excited.
Yeah.
But then you start planning, right? Then it's a case of, I need to have the best round of my life because it's going to be the nicest golf course I've ever played on. How does that kind of pre-round planning go, or pre-day?
Right. So first of all, actually, the original phone call was a little bit touch and go because, as most of you will know, I am no real golfer. My handicap at the moment is 17.3. And for those of you who don't know, Wentworth is a leg on the DP World Tour. They host a BMW event there every year. And it is a championship course and also a top 20 ranked course in the UK.
Yeah, it's the home of the DP World Tour. So it's before it was the DP World Tour, it was the European Tour HQ. I think, unless you're a famous person or a sportsman, you won't have a look in terms of getting membership. You're looking at, sort of a hefty membership fee there, or an invite only. And somehow this clown has rocked up on Thursday morning and played 18 holes. I had to keep asking him, you can't be on the championship course. Like, they've got 3 courses there. And he's like, no. And I'm like, you'll know it on the first tee. The clubhouse will be behind you. And he's sending me a picture. I'm like, this fucking guy is on the championship course at Wentworth. Like,
So back to the original point, it was touch and go because I needed to just he needed to double check that there wasn't any handicap restrictions or anything like that. Generally speaking, I think most clubs are probably all right if you're below, 18. Like there are occasions, as you've probably seen on Instagram, where I am a bit of a hacker, but as it happens, I'm on good form at the moment and the handicap's on the way down. So yeah, I had to wait until Wednesday to get confirmed. So I didn't actually really tell anyone on the Tuesday that this opportunity might be on the horizon. But he rang me up on Wednesday, said, yeah, we're on, sent me the breakfast menu for a pre-ordered breakfast, which for those of you who know me very well will know that honestly, and this is no word of a lie, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite meal of the day, of any day of the year, at any point. It's pretty much the first thing I do after I wake up. If I don't go to the gym, or if I go to the gym, I will eat. And generally speaking, that is most days before 7 a.m. and at some days 6 a.m. I've got food inside me. So I'm like buzzing. Order a little pre-order an eggs royale, which for those of you who don't know is a bit like eggs Benedict, but it's got smoked salmon, poached eggs on the top with a bit of hollandaise sauce. So as soon as I saw that on the menu, that's usually my go-to for breakfast, eating out. So I was very much looking forward to that. So now we're at like the night before I'm playing Wentworth, and some of you guys know, obviously we're big into the mental side of the game. I'm thinking, bloody hell, like what if I am on the proper course at this point? I didn't want to ask any questions. So I was just like, I didn't know what was going on, right? So I'm literally thinking like, I'm having a little look online. I'm watching some of the guides from the Pro-Am because there's like, what's his name? Spider-Man did that famous shot. What's his name? Tom Holland. And he done with Podrick Harrington, and he was, trying to hit the driver off the deck and all that. And I was watching all those sort of clips. I was, imagining myself around the course. Bit of visualization for those that have been listening to the whole podcast. They're doing all those sort of things. And for those of you who also know me personally or might be aware, been on a bit of a physical and mental journey in the last year or so. So I now go to the gym pretty much every day at around 6 a.m., some days 5 a.m. So on this occasion, as I needed to be at Wentworth at 7:10, I was in the gym or planning to go to the gym for 5 a.m. So pre-warned the PT. We actually usually start at 5:10. I was like, mate, we've got to get there for 5 because I've got to have a shower at the gym, get changed beyond the road. So I've set my alarm for 4:30, and honestly, I rolled over. It was 2:30. I was wide awake. I felt like a little kid at Christmas. I could not sleep. So I started listening to like a few golf podcasts, trying to calm myself down, get a bit of sleep in me because I thought I don't want to go there and like embarrass myself because I've like not slept. So go to the gym, good session. I'm on the road, get to Wentworth at 7:00. And like coming up the main drive, I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got a little black Seat Ibiza, right? And I'm coming down, literally turn into the Wentworth estate. And you're like, oh my God, this place is like something else. Like just everything around it. Obviously, I don't know if for people who don't maybe not listen to or follow golf or like understand what Wentworth is. It's a private estate. So loads of like multi-million pound houses on them. Like I'm sure some celebrities have like Justin Rose has a house there. He was actually in the garden on the Full Swing episode when he got called up for the Ryder Cup. Literally says like Wentworth Estate on it. So yeah, it was just driving in. I was just taking it in like this is fucking something else really. I actually ended up in the there's like 4 car parks. So I'm like, I get into one and there's literally just like Porsches, Mercs, like fucking you name it, all over the gaff. Ring my mate. I'm like, where are you, buddy? Just like, no, we're in the car park by the driving range, mate. So I was like, yeah, better bloody get out of here, pal. Like, it's like directing me where to go, end up over there. So yeah, that's basically how I've ended up there so far.
Yeah, just before we kind of continue down this journey, AB, I'm really keen to hear whether your prep would have been very similar. Do you think you would have done that? Are you like the kid who on non-uniform days got all their clothes lined out, like ready to go the night before? Are you doing that? You got all the bread stash out? Like, what's the vibe?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I would have been prepared. So I would have done a little bit of visualization, like DB mentioned there, and then I would have got my clothes out the night before. But I would have been a nervous wreck, mate. That's for sure. Driving down, probably have a little sing-song or something. But I would have been very, very nervous, put it that way, and I would have been thinking about it a lot more than you do normally on a Saturday morning to go to your local club. So I think that is a credit to DB, to be fair, that he can hold it together in those sort of moments. And yeah, I think he's gonna. What are you going on to next? Talk us through the team.
Well, get to a bit of breakfast quickly first. So we've obviously rocked up, me and this other guy, and so I don't really know how it worked, but basically we ended up playing with a member from Wentworth who is also a golf professional. So he works at some Surrey golf clubs, and he's building his own studio at the moment. So he's like well known around the area, and he was linked with this guy from this charity day or whatever, and he managed. So he's on the tee around with us, basically to make sure that we're getting around in good time, not holding anyone up, not fucking hacking the course up and all that sort of stuff. Sort of show us around and whatnot. So we're like walking in, trying to find breakfast. The clubhouse is a bit of a maze if you don't know where you're going. So we've ended up being like escorted into like the breakfast restaurant, and the guy's there waiting for us. It's nice to meet you. Sit down. Drinks and all that. Then my eggs royale come flying out. The other guy coming in, and we're like sat there talking away. And I love hitting golf balls before I play. Like I could easily stand in the cage or on a range for like an hour hitting golf balls for ages. And I like with most things that I do, the more that I do it on the day, the better I get. Obviously, there's like a peak. I wouldn't be on the driving range for like 3 hours before, but I don't like to be like rushed or whatever. And I'm doing a bit of clock watching, and it gets to about 20 to 8. And bear in mind, we're on the tee at 10 past 8. I've not even got my shoes or anything on. Right, you guys can go in the range if you want. Obviously, the range is free. The golf ball's just there waiting. They've got like TrackMan bays and stuff. Not TrackMan, but they have like TVs with like the stuff on it, whatever it was, right? So we get over there. The two other guys who were originally actually booked caddies, and I didn't really know what the score was. So I didn't book a caddy, but we had two caddies with us. Must say they were actually really, really helpful on the way around. But yeah, I hit a few golf balls, a few putts on a practice green, and then before you know it, we're on the first tee. So I'm still outside the famous clubhouse, staring down the barrel of a 465-yard par 4, which for a par 4 for me is basically a par 5. In fact, I'm lying to you. It is a par 5. So this is how nervous I was. I picked the scorecard out of the thing. I didn't even look at it. I'm stood there, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, that's a long par 4. And I got onto the green, and I'll tell you what, I got it in a minute, but I thought it's not too bad, championship course. And then someone that went, yeah, it's a par 5. And I thought, oh, yeah, that is not bad, right? So we've then got on the tee box, we've got this golf professional. We've got the two caddies, the three of us idiots, basically. Not idiots, but, the amateur golfers. And then the starter. And the starter's got an earpiece in. He radios up to the guy who's the golf concierge, who radios into the guy in the shop to say the 8-10 tee time's going off. And then everyone stands outside the clubhouse. Not everyone, but the concierge, the radio guy, the starter, the caddies, they're all just stood there waiting for us to fucking tee off. So obviously we let the pro go first. He rips one. Like, smokes it, right? Then I was like, Dan, you better go now. Like, you go. You go on, you go. Because I was thinking, well, hopefully he's as nervous as I am. Maybe he'll duff it. So if I duff it, it's not so bad. So he then smokes it straight down the middle. I'm thinking, fucking hell, the fairway's like 200 yards away, mate, to be honest, right? It's like quite far because there's a slope up in there, AB. Yeah. It's like a short fairway where if you duff it, you're on the up bit. Then there's like a ridgy bit, and then there's like the other fairway, right? So I'm thinking, fucking hell, like, I might not even make the other fairway if I don't catch it right. So I was a bit nervous. The adrenaline was pumping. I swung it. And I've got to say, I've generally got a bit of a fade, but it was a push. It was a push, not a fade, a push. And it went quite far. So I'm like on the fringe to the right of the fairway, over the ridge. And I've got about 220 in, maybe 230. But it goes right down and up. So I laid up, chipped up, actually flew the green, got it back on the green, 2 putted for a 6, which at the time I thought was a double bogey. Then my mate looked up, was like, I was a par 5. I thought, it's bogey golf. I'll take that. Dan Hardy, who invited me, actually managed to get on the green in 3 and 1-putted. So he's birdied the first hole at Wentworth. And he plays off 13 as well. So, I mean, he's a good golfer and very steady. But we were all just a bit like, has that just fucking happened? Like, what's just happened? He's just birdied it. But I won't go like hole by hole, shot by shot. But one thing I will just say before you guys dive in with your questions is we played off the yellow tees. They were prepared to let us play off the white tees. Obviously, you can't play off the championship tees. But it wasn't a busy day out, but there was enough people behind us, and we wanted to enjoy ourselves. So we opted for the yellow tees, which I think was a sensible option because the total yardage, 6,604, which is still, in my eyes, long. The white tees are only like 6,800. So it's only about 10, 15 yards a hole anyway. Like a lot of them were like quite close to each other. Didn't actually make that much of a difference. And yeah, the shot indexes for the handicaps, I could not believe. So Dan plays off 13 and he was allowed 19 shots due to the slope index. So I play off 17, which allowed me 24 shots off a slope index.
Yeah.
So I'll sort of like let you dart any questions you've got over before I sort of dissect the round.
Yeah, I think for me, 6,000 plus yards is 1 to 2 working days to get round. That's quite a stretch. One question that I've got is, at what point did you go, yeah, okay, I'm feeling good? Like, obviously, you've done the first hole, you've hit a bogey, so you're relatively happy. Your mate's gone on, he's hit a birdie, so he's obviously over the moon. But you're getting on the second tee, you're probably still a little bit shaky, right? So what was the point where you went, okay, I'm here to play golf now?
I definitely was. And do you know what? So what I would say is the prior week before, for those who listened to the last episode, I had the dinner cup at a golf club. And I actually played quite well for 16 holes, basically. I just had 2 blow-up holes. But generally, I felt like my swing was really smooth. I felt like physically I'm in good condition at the moment. I was feeling good. And I've generally recently been playing some quite consistent golf, although I haven't been out that much. So it wasn't so much I was like nervous about playing like bad golf. I feel like I was more just nervous because of the surroundings. I didn't want to like embarrass myself because I was the highest handicap player there. So even if I might have played like quite well, I still could have been like miles off what everyone else was. Obviously, one guy, the pro, is off like +2 or 3 or whatever. So he plays there all the time, so he knows it, knows what he's doing. And obviously, the other 2, I think one of the guys that we were with was off about 10 or 11, and then Dan's off like 13.3. So they're naturally better than me anyway. So I was a bit nervous about, didn't want to show myself up, but actually, my tee shot on the second was probably where I put my shoulders back a little bit and thought, I'm fucking here, basically. Let's have it, because Dan went off first because obviously he got his birdie, and his tee shot was actually just quite an intimidating par 3 because it's not like uphill. There's like kind of like a gap, and it sort of runs up to it.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like a raised green, if you will, right? So there's no like fairway as such, just like a little like maybe like 20 yards of like cut grass like that runs up a slope. So he hit it, and it hit like the fringe of the green and literally rolled all the way back down into essentially fringe/rough. Right? It's quite brutal, AB. You've obviously been there and watched it. It's quite a brutal hole, can be, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've stood. You can, when they have the BMW PGA, you stand in that bit, so people surround the green, and it can get quite filled up. So it's like DB says, it kind of looks sort of level, but I would say the green is probably slightly higher.
It is.
So you are like hitting uphill, and then people surround the green. So I've stood in that ditch before. So yeah, if you don't get the right yardage, you're sliding down the hill, I guess.
Yes, this is where the caddies came quite in handy, because they were on a tee with us and I didn't have one. They were still quite helpful and like helping me out with the yardages, and like you could overhear the conversations, but they would come and speak to you and be like, the wind's coming a bit this way. The pin's like 135 or whatever it was, but the wind's coming it's a bit uphill. I played like a 140, 145 shot. So I took an 8-iron and lovely smooth swing, and it was just bang, slap bang in the middle of green. And it was probably about 10 foot for the birdie putt, and which generally I'm not, even at my own course, like I got an 8 on a par 3 last week. I'm much better on the longer holes. That was sort of when I thought, I could be here for a bit of golf today. You know what I mean? Like if I'm hitting greens on par 3s that are like proper par 3s like that, I've got a chance here. So I plonked it on. The matey tried to like line up my putt because it was a very bit of a slopey green. I ended up 2-putting for the par. Walked away and I was thinking, DB's here today. That's what I was thinking, Clarky, you know? Ring the clubhouse, DB's here.
Yeah. What's the course record? I'm here today.
Yeah.
Nice.
Basically.
So you touched on having caddies there. Do you think if you had a caddy, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you were to go to another course, do you think it would be as useful at another course, or do you think it was just because this one was exceptionally tricky that, like your home course, for example, if you had a caddy there, do you think you would improve like by a couple of shots? Is it like you'd massively improve?
So I'm going to not go back on something I said on a previous podcast, but change my stance slightly, because what these caddies, and I actually think this may have been because they weren't my caddy, if that makes sense. So they would just give me like a yardage, or like, you know, they wouldn't be like, oh, you know, hit your 8-iron, fucking whack up there, draw it, it rolls this way, it does that. They'd be like, look, you probably want to play like 140 shot. And then they were with the other guys, right? And that for me is just about all the information I want or need from anyone, because that I found really helpful, because it wasn't necessarily 140 yards away, but they would tell you what yardage to play based on the conditions. So like if you're going uphill, if you're going downhill, or if the green is, you know, certain position, or however it might be, if the wind's coming or the wind's with, they knew what they were talking about. And these guys get paid to do this every day at Wentworth, and they come in and they know the game, right? So that for me was all the information I really wanted to hear, because I don't like too much information. So he would say, like, you know, hit a 140-yard shot. I'm immediately putting my 8-iron out. Nice smooth 8-iron. And it was, you know, I found it really helpful. Where it really paid dividends, because I'm shit at it, was on the greens. They would line your putts up basically for you. So they would do it for everyone. So, or if they were busy, I would ask the pro to come and help me. So actually we played, because I was the handicapper and the pro's obviously lowest handicapper, we played 2-ball, better ball, I think is whatever it would be called. So us two, me and the pro versus the other two, was just like how we were doing it. But we all kept our own scorecards anyway. But we had a little bit of a friendly wager on it, shall we say, on the way around. But yeah, then we'll see the front. I won't sort of do hole by hole because I don't want to bore everyone. But what I would say is,
don't reveal your score yet. Don't reveal your score yet. I got one last question to ask you, and it is, which was the best hole that you played? Give it your best score that you got, but then also like the hole where you were like, this is unreal. Which looks amazing. Which one?
So for me, the best score that I got, I think, was on the 10th hole, which is a par 3, which is on this scorecard, it says it's 172 yards. But I think when we were on the tee, they actually zapped the pin. It was 180 something because it was in the middle of the green. And then it was there was a little bit of wind. And I basically, the adrenaline was pumping. I'd had my Perfect Ted green tea energy drink in the morning, which really gets me going. Shout out Perfect Ted. If you want to send me a sponsorship, we've exchanged some DMs on Instagram before. I'm open to your calls. Let me know. I hit a 5-iron straight onto the middle of the green, again, about 6-8 foot, and 2-putted. And like, if someone just screenshotted that hole, you would have thought I looked like a really good golfer. Like a 5-iron, 180 yards onto the green. I was delighted with. So yeah, that was the best hole that I played. The best looking hole was probably, I think it's the 8th, where there's like water, and there's like a little it goes into like a stream. This is my opinion anyway. So it goes a bit like downhill. So the tee's raised. It goes down towards there's like a lake that covers the fairway, but then there's like a stream that like hugs the green. So the lake goes into a stream that goes up by the green, which I will tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But then the green's just behind it. So you have to it's like a driver down to the lake. Probably, I think the lake's probably about.
Yeah, I was going to say on that one, because it's such a short par 4. I guess you hit a driver, but
well, you say short. It's 388 yards still.
Yeah, but so what I'm saying is, when I've seen the PGA there, the pros will hit a hybrid.
Yeah, I think the actual pro hit an iron. I think he hit a 4 iron.
And they just plonk themselves in the fairway and then hit a wedge on. But it would be quite interesting for you to drive that, and obviously.
Well, I don't think so. I think they said that the lake was 270 and we were against the wind at the time, so I don't think there was any danger of us hitting it. But I will come back to that hole in a minute, because in true DB fashion, I had what I would consider a fairly good round, but didn't come without its troubles along the way. So, but also, I would say, true to form, as some would say, the luckiest man in golf was on fine form on this beautiful Thursday morning. So much so that even the caddies and the pros and the pro was like, how on earth do you do this? And I literally remember walking down at one point being like, I'm telling you guys, it's up here. You make your own luck in life. And I was just like, just trust me, believe it, and good things are coming. And bit of a man of God. God was definitely watching down on me on this Thursday morning, because a couple of holes, there was one, I shanked it right off a tee. Like, it looked like it was going quite well. Boom, hit the tree, just dropped down right by the path. Gave me a lovely little freewood into the green that popped up on the fringe. So I'm stood on the path. Lovely little, it was like I hit it off a tee, basically, because it was just lying on top of the grass. It's another one. I hit the cut path twice, which gave me another 20 yards back into the fairway. Well, one of them I went on the wrong fairway, but it gave me a lovely line, because I actually missed like some trees that were like blocking the green. So it was actually like a bit of a cheat code, because I hit this fairway. I'm trying to think what hole that was. I hit the fairway anyway, and I went onto this. It was an upslope of the other one, and there's some trees that are like blocking the right hand side of the green. But because of the line that I was on, because it went like 20 yards onto the other fairway, I like cut round the back. It was like Beckham bending a free kick round the wall type thing. Like cut round the back of these trees and plonk myself on the green. Another time, there's like rough and like a ditch on this hole, and I've sliced my drive. They literally went like aim as far left as you can. And in true form, sliced it all the way right, hit the cart path, bounced over a bush, over a ditch, and then like it's like nestled lovely and beautifully on the top again, like basically like teed up. I also on that 8th hole, which is I've just
see what I have to deal with when we play
on the 8th hole, which I've just described, right? I've hit my drive straight down the middle. And again, I was about. So I must have gone about 220. He said it was 170 to the back of the green. And at this point, I didn't realize quite how much the adrenaline was pumping. So I took a 5 iron because we were against the wind. And I've absolutely smoked it. But I've like snap hooked it, which, as you've probably just figured out, is quite unusual for me. And I thought, oh no, this is going into the stream, because it was like close to the left-hand side of the green. And the guy was a bit further up. And I said, oh, is that in the water? And he says, I didn't see it, but there's a bloody big, I think he said a rhododendron I'm going to go for. He said, there's a bloody big rhododendron up there, right? So I think it's some sort of hedge or flower or something, right?
It's a flower, yeah.
Right. So I've marched around the back of the green, and as you would know, pin high on the other side of the stream, where there's literally about a yard of grass, my beautiful looking golf ball was just sat there, chipped on, one putted. Thank you very much. Cheers, and gone. So, yeah, I was like absolutely just loving life, mate. There was another one as well where see how this is going, right? I shanked it off the tee, as you do. And then I was miles away. So it's actually quite a few dogleg lefts, which actually really doesn't suit my golf game, which is going to be remarkable when I tell you what I tell you in a minute. But I was miles back in the fairway. I want to say about 270, maybe 300. I wasn't actually in the fairway. It was on the fringe near this bunker. I've hit a 3-wood, and it's sort of like it came out a bit of a stinger because of the rough. I'm going to say because of the rough anyway. It's nothing to do with my swing, it's because of the rough, right? So it's come out a bit of a stinger, and there's a ditch about 200 yards in front of me. And I just went to the pro, like, oh my God, has that gone in the ditch? And do you know what happened, right? On the left-hand side of the ditch, there's a lump of grass where you drive over if you're in a cart or you push your trolley over. It rolled over the lump of grass and just came back to the right into the fairway. So I just chipped on, had a little 2-putt. Thanks so much, guys. I literally said to him on the way round, I was like, you see what I mean? Why people get annoyed playing golf with me, because I just get all these things in my favor. But yeah, don't know. Visualize it, guys. Believe it'll happen, and it'll happen. I am living proof. So it gives you a little snippet into my round at Wentworth.
You could write a book just on that there.
I've got nothing really to say about this. This is just a summary of how, we can play games, play rounds together, and these are the type of strokes of luck that DB gets. And he's had it on, I guess, the home of European golf. And I guess, I don't know if you had any more questions, Harry, but
what I would say,
hear your score, DB.
Before we tail off and do the score, what I would say is if something happens once, it's lucky. If something happens twice, it may still be a little bit lucky. But when you do it week in, week out, it ain't fucking lucky, mate. Every Saturday, every week, the home of the European Tour, Wentworth, it happens for me, mate. So if that doesn't tell you, you need to start doing things in your mind, believing in it, making sure it works, then I don't know what will, because everyone goes, oh, you're the luckiest guy I know. It's not fucking luck. It's up here, guys.
Sure. Moving on.
Yeah.
So
let's hear his score. I'm bored. I mean, I've had enough of this. Let's hear his score.
Yeah, sure. Go on then. Give us your score, DB.
Right. So what I would just caveat before I say this as well is I did actually, obviously I've had a bit of luck on the way around. I did actually strike the ball really well. I putted quite well and I chipped quite well. And around the greens is where you really felt it, because a few of the early chips it did roll quite sharp, and I got caught a bit short a few times, but recovered with my putts. My recovery golf, as you can probably imagine, was fucking superb, judging by what you've just heard. So 24 shots I was given. It's a par 73. So if I hit par, for me, would have been 97. So I've come in. Well, I got 47 on the front 9. So I'm doing all right. So 47 doubled up would be 94. But I doubled the 17th because I was on for a really, really good score. But I got a 7 on the 17th par 5. I then pulled it back with a 6 on the 18th, which has also got a lot of water on it. And I finished on 95, which was actually 2 under my course handicap for the day. The miracle of the day, thank you, God, was I've somehow played with the same golf ball from the first tee to the 18th hole. And I can't even do that at a par 3 course. I've lost balls at Ali Pali, pitch and putt. Like, I don't know how I've done it. But I've got to say that I think, genuinely speaking now, seriously, longer golf courses in general, when we went up to the Mere, which is another championship course, I played quite well. I've played a few good rounds at Trevose and stuff like that. The longer golf courses suit me because my iron game ain't that strong. So being like 200, 240 yards away from the green on my second shot, I was able to hit like a hybrid or a 3-wood, which are like 2 of my 3 favorite clubs. And I would be like there or thereabouts, or maybe on the green. So then I was just chipping and like giving myself a real good chance of a 1-putt or a 2-putt. So it was actually, I actually in some ways found it easier to play bogey golf because the clubs that I was able to use were the clubs that I like using. Whereas when I'm on like a 280-yard par 4 or a 300-yard par 4 and I'm straight down, you leave yourself like a 100-yard shot or 150-yard shot or whatever it may be. They're the shots I don't like hitting. Like, I've done well on the par 3s here, but in general, I'm not a par 3 player. So yeah, I didn't really. That sort of sums it up. But yeah, 95. Thoughts on that, boys?
Yeah, fair play, mate. Well done. I think you do step up when you go to let's say a proper course. I've witnessed it a few times. I was there at the Mere and at Trevose as well. So I can see how you've done it. Obviously, you've told a few tales of luck there, or however you want to describe it. You do have that goes for you. But no, I was following you around on Gamebook, and I'm thinking, he's going quite nicely here. I can't wait to hear this story, sort of thing. So,
the other two guys actually, they got 92 and 93, I think, or 91 and 93, and one of them's off 10, and the other one's off 13, and I'm off 17, really, in real life. So I actually think that because I was only a couple of shots behind them within reason, I feel like I've definitely played really good golf. Pound for pound, I would say it's probably my best round. Actually, is on. I put it for England Golf and got the guy to sign it off, and the score differential, I think it's called, which is the bit that actually does your handicap, came up at 15.9, which is actually, when I played the Mere, that actually came up as 15.8. But I would say that this golf course was a tougher golf course, and I hit better shots and played better golf. I say pound for pound, it's the best round of golf, personally, I feel like I've played. Yeah. And just on the match play situation, Dan and his partner went in the water on the 18th, and I got a 6 on the par 5 and sunk the winning putt. As per, the one thing I will say is the pro on the par 5 17, he went 3-wood to about 10 yards short of the green. So it's a 481-yard hole, dogleg left. He drew it like a fucking banana, then mullered it down there again, and then he chipped in for an eagle. And we were all just like, what is going on here? Like, this is real golf. We were like celebrating. Like, I wish we had a camera on it. But then, that squared it up on 17th. And I won the 18th hole for us, as I would usually do. So we won. But because Dan sorted the round out, we were allowed into the members bar with the pro, which you're only allowed in if there's a member there. So we had a bit of lunch. I had a steak and chips, and we watched the build up to the Masters. So I squared off lunch for the boys to say thank you for sorting that out. And had a little lager shandy in there, lovely steak with a red wine jus, bowl of chips. Watched Scotty Scheffler warm up and watch the start of the Masters. Well, actually, because the Masters was delayed, I left there at about 2:45. I got home at like 3:25, put my feet up, watched the whole Masters, and I would honestly say it's probably like in the top 5 days I've ever lived in life. Like, it was just a perfect fucking day. Got home and I literally watched like every shot of the Masters.
Right. I think that you've made me and probably a lot of our listeners extremely jealous. Sounds like a hell of a day. Congratulations for getting round. And handicap, always a good
handicap actually got cut as a result. So shout out England Golf. I'm on my way down. If you want to sponsor the podcast, let us know. Wentworth, if you'd like to have me back, I'd be more than happy to oblige. Let me know.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Wentworth will be listening to this as well, to be fair. They will be. So that's good. Anyway, thanks for taking us through that, Dan. And thanks for everyone to listening. Can you make sure that you rate the 5 stars, like, subscribe, depending on what platform you're listening to, and we will catch you next week with the next podcast.
Perfect, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
That was a good one, lads.
Yeah, well done.